next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump is set to meet today with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado at the White House. Her political party is widely considered to have won the 2024 elections, rejected by then-President Nicolás Maduro, who was captured by the U.S. in a military raid earlier this month. Trump has previously dismissed Machado's credibility to run Venezuela. In an interview about Machado with Reuters, Trump said, quote, "She's a very nice woman," and added, "I've seen her on television. I think we're just going to talk basics." The meeting comes as Trump and his top advisors signal they are willing to work with acting President Delcy Rodriguez, who was Maduro's vice president, and along with others in the deposed leader's inner circle who continue to remain in charge of day-to-day governmental operations. Meanwhile, AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports the Senate has rejected a war powers resolution in connection to Venezuela.
Senate Republicans voted to dismiss a war powers resolution Wednesday that would have limited President Trump's ability to conduct further attacks on Venezuela. Two GOP senators, Josh Hawley of Missouri and Todd Young of Indiana, reversing course on supporting the legislation under pressure from the president. Trump has blasted the 5 Republican senators who joined with Democrats to advance the resolution last week, a group that included Hawley and Young, saying they should never again be elected to public office. Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Susan Collins of Maine stuck to their support for the legislation. Ben Thomas, Washington.
Splashdown of Crew 11.
4 International Space Station crew members splashed down in the Pacific this morning ahead of schedule. They returned early because one of them needs medical treatment. This is AP News. AP correspondent Donna Warder reports on immigrant visas suspended for citizens of 75 countries.
The U.S. State Department says Afghanistan, Iran, Russia, and Somalia are some of the 75 countries for which the U.S. will suspend the processing of immigrant visas. The Trump administration says it's likely that citizens of those countries would require public assistance while living in the U.S. Earlier, immigration and travel bans were placed on nearly 40 countries. The suspension begins January 21st and will not apply to applicants requesting non-immigrant visas or temporary tourist and business visas. But a separate notice sent to all U.S. embassies and consulates instructs that non-immigrant visa applications be screened for the possibility that they might request public benefits while in the U.S. Donna Warder, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today. We'll see high in the mid-20s. Winds out of the north around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. By Friday, a chance for some snow again, cloudy skies, high 37 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 17.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives. Welcome to the January 15th, we're halfway there, 2026 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. You can also email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Thread, Substack, and Spoutable. And like I said yesterday, pay close attention to your algorithm. Pay close attention to what's coming in to your feed, but especially when it comes to X right now. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. It was great having Edwin in studio with us yesterday, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Because here are a couple things that we have there right now. Obviously, my interview with Mayor Johnson last week about the soul of Chicago, how we cannot lose it. And I think that's the broader version of that is the soul of the country. We cannot lose it. So check that out at heartlandsignal.com on X. They're pushing Minnesota City Council people now. Councilperson Elliott, who's the president, was just monitoring ICE operations on a public sidewalk and was shoved by a federal agent for no apparent reason. So you can catch that clip there on at our Heartland Signal site. And then Justin Jones down in Tennessee gets his mic muted by a Republican House Speaker while he was calling out the hypocrisy of pedophiles and Donald Trump, and the GOP supporting and blocking any of the investigations. So, yeah, good stuff there. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to check out our digital work and platform. On today's show, Laura Packard, who is short story I share is I met Laura at the DNC last year. In 2024, really great woman, and is a cancer survivor, but also a healthcare advocate, which she'll talk about this morning. Pat Hynes, who's running for Cook County Assessor's office, will be with us in studio in the congressional candidate. He's running for Congress. I'm going to get that mixed up. Why is my brain turned around this morning? Pat Hynes is running for Cook County Assessor. I'm getting mixed up with tomorrow's guest, Philip Andrew, who's running for this in the 7th Congressional District. Sorry about that, guys. So in the 7 o'clock hour, Pat Hynes will be with us in studio, running for Cook County Assessor's office here in Illinois. Sorry about that, but there you go. Quickly cleaning up on aisle 7. And then in the 7:30 hour, Leah Litman, author, law professor at the University of Michigan, will be with us to talk about her book, but also just in general some things that are happening with the Supreme Court, what's happening, how we're looking at things with ICE, and the rest. So I'm looking forward to talking with all three of our guests this morning. But right now, as we talk about this democracy in this country that we're in, we got a clip that I want you guys to hear. It's a couple minutes, but I think you'll appreciate this bit of information. Check this out, progressives.
For 10 of the 20 years that I taught AP Lit Comp, I had my seniors read 3 novels that all dealt with dystopian societies. They were The Handmaid's Tale, Brave New World, and 1984. After the students had read the novels, I gave them a paper and I asked them to decide which society they thought had the greatest chance of coming true. They didn't know what they were going to do with it, but they needed to decide and give me reasons why. Once they finished, I said, everybody who picked Brave New World, go over there, Handmaid's Tale over there, 1984 over there. And then for 2 days, they prepped for a debate. The biggest group every year, the students who picked the totalitarian dystopia as presented in 1984. arguments. They talked about societies where this has really happened, where it is currently happening, and then how it could happen in the U.S. The other debate teams would always come up with, we have a constitution and 3 branches of government, separation of powers. They would say it would take a monumental collapse and corruption across the 3 branches in order for this to happen. And the group who picked 1984 said it wouldn't happen overnight. It would happen slowly. But once we got there, people would wonder how we got there. And now in 2026, here we are. And let's talk about how we got here. So one of the things that you need in order to have total control, one is cult of personality. You need a leader who will inspire unquestioning obedience, loyalty, and will seem infallible once those 2 things are in place. You need propaganda and psychological manipulation so that oxymoronic phrases like war is peace will be taken without question. You need the destruction of personal relationships so that if somebody disagrees with you, they are the enemy because your loyalty is to the party. You need constant surveillance to make sure that the people are doing exactly what you need them to do so that corrections can be made if necessary. You need constant war, either at home or abroad, to keep people fearful and dependent on the party. You need historical revisionism that matches the party's current narrative and erases objective truth. And you need to punish dissent, whether it's an arrest, imprisonment, torture, or worse. Whether you used to hold Cliff Notes, look at Spark Notes online, or now get AI to summarize a novel for you so you can blow it off, this is why reading is important. And this is also why there's been a decades-long push to dismantle and eliminate public education, because an uneducated public is much easier to control.
Okay, lots there, but straight line content. Her name is Jessica Hawk, and it's someone that I've been following. She's a former educator, teacher, and you can follow her. I think I've listened to a lot of her clips, and we played one once before back in December, if I recall. But this is one that I wanted you guys to hear because it gets into this conversation around how strong is our democracy and what are we willing to fight for. And as I've said numbers of times, you got to ask yourself the question, if you're serious about it, and like Edwin said yesterday, our democracy is still here. It's still intact. It's being attacked right now, but people want their freedoms. People want their abilities to choose and to have autonomy and to make decisions. All these things that come as part of a democracy. This administration is not, I don't believe that they believe in democracy. And the reason I can say that is by their actions. Based on, just take what Jessica just said as part of it, as part of the evidence. The other thing is, let's look at the people who were behind the curtain when it comes to money for this administration. Let's look at the people that are behind the curtain when it comes to the trickery that's going on and what their backgrounds are and what they've said either in public or they've said it in some of their writings or they've said it in certain interviews. And so I can't get into any trouble for what I'm about to say. But the money people behind this administration, based on their actions, don't seem to give a damn about democracy. They want theocracy. They want technocracy. That's what they're looking for. So where am I headed? Yeah, I'm headed down the path of the techno boys. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are South African-born. South Africa, let's put it this way. Because when we get in where someone's born, we have to be careful because, we go with what people say and post, but is that really accurate? They are highly influenced by the government of South Africa during apartheid. I'm going to say it that way so that I don't get into this, because Peter Thiel likes to grab information from people. That's proven. He said it. He said that you can't have certain things when you have a democracy. His own words would indicate he doesn't believe in democracy. But he's one of the biggest behind-the-curtain quiet power players right now in this administration. I've said it before. We're going to say it a whole bunch of other times. And we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch of other things, like getting rid of the Electoral College for all of those out there that need to have that part of their ego stroked, and make sure we're talking about that and talking about all of the benefits that are being snatched from communities. We're going to talk about all of that and all the things that this administration is failing at. But the one thing that they are succeeding at is bringing in these non-democracy believing folk into the fold. And that's why what Jessica Hawk that clip that we just played for you resonates really strongly with me. And so if you believe in it, if you believe in protecting and regaining our humanity and our dignity, then you got to be willing to fight for it. And protecting our democracy that's still here and still strong in many ways, you got to fight for it. We have to fight for it. Because what's happening right now in Minneapolis and in other places, I mean, another person, Henry, got shot in the leg. Another person got shot. So that's not a federal agent shoots a man in the leg. That's the highlight. That's the headline. So that's why we have to keep pushing every single day. We have to say it every day, and it may get boring. I get that. However, if we believe in it the way we say we do, then we got to fight for it. And I say that to all of our communities. I say that to the African-American community. I say that to the Latino, Hispanic, Mexican community. I say that to our other immigrant communities that are from Europe and the Middle East and from the continent of Africa. I say that to legacy Europeans who are here. You know, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. You're of European descent, and your family's been here for 2 or 3 generations. All of us, if we believe in that, have to fight for it. So I say it to all of us. I'm not pointing fingers at one particular group. I'm pointing fingers at all of us. And I believe part of my responsibility in this space is to talk about it every single day, and nuanced and sometimes right in your face. Jessica Hawk, she's someone that we are going to be listening to some of her content because she makes some very, very good points. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Dive deeper into the heart of the news and stories at WCPT 820 and across the Midwest by checking out our website, heartlandsignal.com.
It's the coverage I can count on every time.
For the latest news updates, in-depth analysis, compelling stories, comprehensive election coverage, live streams, and thought-provoking opinions, head to heartlandsignal.com.
When I need to know, they're there.
They keep me informed and updated wherever I am.
Stay informed with WCPT 820, your go-to source for where facts matter. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez.
Hold on a second. I'm going to take this on the air. Hey, Steve Lessman, this is Patty Vasquez. We're live on the air. Are you really calling me? This is the sales department calling me live on the air? Hey, Steve. Steve, you're on the air.
Did they make it?
You've done that to me. You could know Art from WCPT.
Why are they calling you?
I have no idea. He just saw me in the hallway. Come on now.
Patty Vasquez. Weeknights 5 to 7 on WCPT 820.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
From the headlines to the heart of the city, Richard Chu breaks it all down. You're back on Choose Views.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. And the number, of course, is 773-763-9278. Give us a call. We'll try to squeeze you in. I know we're busy with our guests. But a couple people have already asked me, how do we follow Jessica Hawk? Her handle on Instagram is My Teacher Face. Again, it's My Teacher Face, all one word. And her name is Jessica Hawk. If you Google her name, you probably can find her. And if you throw in there My Teacher Face, it'll probably pop up as well. But I think she's worth a follow. I think she's putting out some great information. And with her background in education, she approaches it from that angle in terms of what we're reading and what we're putting in our brains. So check her out. I think it's how we go about spreading good information. It's how we go about spreading good media and content is when you see something like that, you share it. Remember how I've said for such a long time about our Heartland Signal, a digital platform. That's about sharing. Some of the people, again, when we look at where media is been sliced and diced and cut and thrown to the curb, there's a lot of people and this is where infrastructure is a key component. There's a lot of people in parts of the country that don't get access to anything other than Fox or Fox derivatives, News Nation, and whatever they're called. They don't get anything other than that. And it's sort of like the algorithm on your some of your social media platforms. If that's all you're getting, then it's understandable. Intellectually, it's understandable how people then get swayed down this path because that's all they're getting. So just sharing with people that you know that may not be getting other information or other access to content, and even those that are, is a powerful tool that you have in your hand. So that's another reason why you need to hang out at our heartlandsignal.com digital platform. So there you go. Henry's telling me it's time for a couple of Choose Views news items on this January 15th, 2026. So here we go. Mortgage demand pops nearly 29% as rates fall last week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Rates, which had been ticking downward briefly below 6%, they've said now that they would find ways to bring in more of the influence of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So we'll see. Refinance demand jumped 40%, marking a 128% increase year over year. The average contract increase slid from 6.25% to 6.18%. So there you go. Retail sales jump despite shoppers' worries. U.S. retail sales notched a bigger than expected increase in November, thanks to a healthy holiday shopping season and a jump in auto buying. 10 of the 13 tracked categories, including clothing outlets and building materials retailers, rose for the month, suggesting Americans kept shopping despite worries about affordability and job security. Meanwhile, wholesale inflation edged up 0.02% in November and 3% year over year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Eli Lilly expects the GLP-1 pill approval as early as this March. The pharmaceutical giant expects its highly anticipated obesity pill to get FDA approval in the second quarter, even as early as March, this first quarter. CFO Luca Montarch told Bloomberg at the 2026 JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. The pills are becoming the next phase of the race for GLP-1 dominance, with Novo Nordisk already getting approval for its oral version. U.S. mortality rate for cancer is declining. A new report from the American Cancer Society finds that more Americans are surviving cancer. The 5-year survival rate for all cancers has hit 70% for the first time, with improved survival outcomes for more fatal diagnoses, including liver and lung cancers. The ACS's chief scientific officer, William Dayhout, tells the Washington Post the progress was a result of lowered tobacco use, early detection methods, and improved therapies. He also attributes the advancements to scientific funding, which has faced increased scrutiny as of late. And Saks Global filed for bankruptcy protection yesterday, taking in a bid to address the debt that's the nation's largest luxury retailer unable to pay its bills after it missed a $100 million interest payment. The company, which includes iconic brands like Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, will remain in business while it reorganizes with a $1.7 billion amount in new financing during Chapter 11 proceedings. So there you go, guys. A couple of Choose Views news items and updates. So I want to circle back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about those that are believers in democracy, those that are believers in where we are currently, and really looking at the what's actually happening versus what they're telling us, and we can go to a couple different items. One of course is the murder of Miss Good last week. See, the thing that the thing that I don't want us to do, or maybe I'll put this in the positive, the thing that I want us to do is to keep talking with respect about what happened to her, and not get caught up in the. I mean, it's easy for us to do this. You know, which direction the wheels were turned. I've done it myself here, so I'll be the first to say that about myself. Or get caught up in, you know, her relationship with her wife, and you know that she's, you know, any of those things that are sort of unimportant to the fact that a person was murdered on our streets by a federal agent, a federal thug. When we talk about the things that are, when we talk about those peripheral things, sometimes we lose sight of what took place, what happened. And that is that a person was murdered by a federal agent on our street. It wasn't, you know, I'm not softening it up with saying, you know, she was killed or she was murdered. And let's not get drawn into this now recent release of information that he was treated for internal bleeding and injuries at a hospital. Okay, well, whether he was or he was not, I'm not going to get caught up in believing that or not believing or spending a lot of time on it, because he's still alive. You know, he's still alive. She's not. And so as you listen to all the conversation, and I'm talking about this in terms of the way in which the White House and other GOP members are trying to spin this, that she was a domestic terrorist. It's interesting how, Henry, when just y'all bear with me, I would say that Dylan Roof is more of a domestic terrorist than Rachel Good was, right? He's still alive. And on the way to jail, they stopped off at Burger King, if I recall. It was at McDonald's. But the right and the white on the right would not allow domestic terrorists to come out of the lips of anybody. When he actually he slaughtered 9 people while they were expressing their faith. And I could laundry list 5, 6 other situations where somebody actually killed a bunch of people over political matters, if you will. And the powers that be would not allow the words domestic terrorist to be part of the description. Y'all remember that? But suddenly this woman in her car, who was essentially leaving as they were telling her to do, is a domestic terrorist. And now anybody, think about this for a minute. This is where what Stephen Miller has been perpetrating, and others are falling in the same camp. Now anyone that stands up to the behavior of ICE and other law enforcement, but specifically ICE, let me stay on point with this, is a domestic terrorist if they challenge, even if they record. Because now people that are recording what ICE is doing in neighborhoods as they're going door to door are being given this loose label as a domestic terrorist or an anarchist by simply exercising their First Amendment right. That's part of their First Amendment right. It's part of speech. I mean, hell, if Mitt Romney can say that money is speech, then my cell phone is speech too. So my point of all this, guys, is we have to maintain our ability to talk about the things that are happening and pick the side that you want to be on, determine which part of this conversation you want to be a part of, and be willing to push back on people that bring garbage to you. You just have to. And it's a day. Listen, we are in a day-to-day struggle with this. And as I prepare for every show, one of the things that I tell myself is to be encouraged to keep talking about the fact that we have to fight. And you know, I'm probably different than most folks when it comes to that, but you know, I'm holding on to that and tying that knot 2 or 3 more times. Hang in there, as the old print ad was back in the 70s. That's what we have to do. We have no other choice. You could say in the past we may have had a choice, but now we don't. We don't have a choice. So make sure that you're prepared for this, and I'll do my best every day to keep you guys as in line as we can be. But we have to keep talking about these things. We can't let the murder of Miss Good we can't lose sight of the fact that she was murdered in the streets of America by the same people that say they're there to protect people and get rid of criminals. So let's take a quick break. Henry, the number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
We're all so stressed out. We asked Dr. Jack Vaith of Shepherd Pratt Hospital in Baltimore, is there good and bad stress?
There absolutely is. In fact, not having enough anxiety or stress is actually bad because we want to live a structured lifestyle where we're fairly busy and consequently fairly productive and fairly happy. And the extremes on either end can be rather unhealthy. For example, if I'm stressed over an upcoming exam, it forces me to study and prepare to do well on that exam. If I have no stress over that exam, I take the exam without studying and fail. If I have an extreme amount of stress and anxiety over the exam, I consequently can't even concentrate to memorize the stuff to do well. So there's a middle ground where a certain amount of stress drives us to a certain amount of anxiety, which in turn drives us to succeed in our endeavors.
I feel so much better now. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today. We'll see high in the mid-20s. Winds out of the north around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. By Friday, a chance for some snow again, cloudy skies, high 37 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 17.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. We'll get your calls in, so hang in there with us. We got guests today, but we want to try to squeeze your calls in as well. So just don't. We haven't forgotten about you. During the convention, the DNC, last summer of 2024, gosh, it's been a year and a half now, Henry. I had a chance. Chance is not the right word. I had the blessing and the opportunity and the honor to meet some really great people. Political folks, in terms of folks elected to political offices. It stretched the gamut. Celebrity folk that are involved in politics. And people who are, as I have talked about so many times, Henry, folks that start and run organizations that affect people right on the ground in their community. They're the day-to-day folks. It could be Dan Summons from Blessings in a Backpack, making sure the kids have food on the weekends, or it could be someone that's the head of one of the federal agencies. And then there's everything in between that makes up so much of our sort of social fabric. I met the founder and healthcare advocate of Voices of Healthcare Action, and also one of the people that's executive directors of Healthcare Voter. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Laura Packard, guys. And I'll let Laura tell her story, but I'm so glad to have a moment to chat with you again this morning. Good morning, Laura. Welcome to Choose Views on WCPT.
Thanks for having me, and it was great to meet you last year, too. A lot has happened since then.
Lord have mercy, a lot has happened. I was so, like I said, at the convention, it was just nice to meet so many people and folks that like you who are, like I put it, on the ground doing the everyday regular stuff that may not get all the attention that some of the bigger named, organizations, et cetera, might get. But the day-to-day work that you do when it comes to healthcare and being such a healthcare advocate really intrigued me. And I was like, wow, there are people that are actually doing this kind of work. So, Laura, it's great to have you on the show. And I know that you have had a chance to talk with some of the other folks here at WCPT over the last year or so. But thanks for taking some time to be with us this morning. So I'll start right off by just diving into the middle of the deep end of the pool. You spent a lot of your time in recent years really pointing out why we have to put more time, energy, resources, and all the rest into our healthcare systems on a local level, on a state, and on a national level. So let the audience know a little bit more about you, your background, your journey, and where you are and what you're doing right now.
Thanks. Well, healthcare is personal for me because during the last Trump administration, that first year in 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and the Affordable Care Act was keeping me alive. So while I was going through chemotherapy treatments, I was also fighting to keep the health insurance that was paying for those treatments. And in fact, the day after my first chemotherapy appointment, while I was at home on the couch trying to recover, that's when Republicans in the U.S. House voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act and then held a party to celebrate. And fast forward 8 years later, I am so thankful to be in remission and to still be here. But they're doing it again. Last year, they passed the big, beautiful bill, which cuts $1 trillion out of our healthcare system. And we're already seeing the effects right now with sky-high premiums for health insurance for people who get their insurance through the Affordable Care Act and also everybody else, because it's a healthcare system. If you cut one part of it, everybody will lose customers and raise their rates to cover that. So everyone seeing higher health insurance premiums, whether they get their insurance through the Affordable Care Act or not.
Yeah, it breaks my heart that we've got to fight so hard to fight to stay alive when it comes to something that should just be so basic. And this is something that I will make a very partisan statement about. You would think that Republicans who play themselves, and the GOP that plays themselves as so smart and godly and all-knowing would understand, and I'm talking about the elected officials on all levels, local, state, and federal, would understand that your constituents, if they're not here, if they're not healthy, how in the hell they're going to vote for you? Is that oversimplifying it, Laura, or what? But, the GOP is the party, that's pushing to take away this thing that's going to affect their communities because, health care, sickness, wellness, it has no political, RDI, whatever, behind it. But they don't get that. Maybe they don't give a damn. What is it, Laura?
Well, it's about choices. I mean, we didn't have to be here right now. This is the result of choices by President Trump and Republicans in Congress. They chose to prioritize giving tax breaks to billionaires like Elon Musk over making health insurance affordable for middle-class Americans. They chose this, and they could choose differently. At any time, Congress could take action to make health insurance more affordable, and every day they don't do it is a day that they are choosing not to make your health care affordable.
Yeah, it's a choice. I'm glad you just did not shy away from it. And I know you don't. I met you and I know how strong you are. But you don't shy away from calling it as it is. They made a choice. They made a decision to do this. And they made a decision to pick the money side versus the everyday person side. And so when I hear the GOP talk about we're down with the middle class, we're going to take care of the middle class, the working man and woman, it's a bunch of BS. It's malarkey, as Joe Biden would say, because if they were, then they'd make a different choice, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is affecting me directly. My health insurance premiums are up 21% this year. And I'm fortunate that, I have heard stories from people. Every time I talk about this online, I will get comments about people that are facing much higher increases. How do you afford your health insurance going up by hundreds or thousands of dollars every single month? And what people are doing is they just can't afford their health insurance, and they're going uninsured.
Yeah. And that just makes it more expensive and more. Look, if we can't take money out of the conversation, but I'm going to put it to the side for a moment. It just makes our society, by making it less healthy, we then take away our ability for people to actually thrive. I mean, it's like, how could they not get this? Earlier in the week, Tuesday, we had a local individual's name is Richard Boykin. He's running for the U.S. Congressional seat of Danny Davis, and that's a name that you would recognize. Congressman Davis is not going to run again. Mr. Boykin talked about the fact that the number one thing, and I've said a version of this for years now, the number one tool for strengthening the defense of our country is to make sure that we are healthy. If we're not healthy, I mean, an unhealthy military man or woman can't be a good, can't serve well in the military. So when we spend all this money on defense, I think our biggest form of national defense should be taking care of the health and wellness of every single person that's a citizen or that's in this country. Makes it kind of common sense to me, but they're making a different choice, and I don't get it. But at the same time, I know that we have an opportunity as progressives, as liberals, as Democrats, as common sense folks to say, you know what? This is one of the tools that we have as a way to vote them out of office, up and down the ticket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right in that this is about choices. Offering billions of dollars to buy Greenland versus the billions of dollars we're cutting from our health care. It's choices, and we need people that will make different choices for America.
You've also really leaned into a couple of other very important areas. Let's talk about one of them. Mm-hmm. Cuts to medical research. Now we know that the cuts to care is the big one that people talk about, or that immediately impacts lives. But you've also really leaned into the cuts to medical research. Let's talk about that and what you've observed and what the dangers are of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are not even seeing the effects of these cuts in that all of the research that isn't being done right now, the scientists that are laid off that will go on to other careers, we'll see it in the people that don't get their treatments and don't get their cures. How many people suffering with chronic or severe conditions right now, somebody could have been working on research to find that treatment or cure, but they just got laid off by RFK Jr. I'm fortunate in that my type of cancer, lymphoma, the specific kind of Hodgkin's lymphoma, they figured out doing research a cure in the 1970s. But how many people right now will never get their cure because of these cuts? And the research that's come out recently said that DOJ actually cost money instead of saving money, that putting people on paid leave and then having to bring some people back when it turns out that they're needed. Like, all of these cuts were not smart, and they're making America sicker.
Yeah, and not one of the things that I spoke about with candidate Boykin the other day is the importance of research. He was talking about this, Laura, and you probably have your statistics of other communities about what I'm just going to share with you. He was saying that the west side of Chicago has a large amount of medical and healthcare facilities. However, the disparity of life expectancy, and this is in the district that he's running for, the congressional district, it's a 20-year disparity in life expectancy between downtown Chicago and the west side of Chicago. And we talked about it, and it's not because of gun violence. It's because of the lack of preparatory care, diagnosis, and treatment. And I would say that that's not that this part of the city of Chicago or this part of Illinois is not on an island. There are other parts of the country that are in that same predicament, and a lot of it's because we don't fund those areas. We disinvest in those areas, but it's also because of the lack of research to determine why we have some of the conditions in the first place. What are some of your findings or observations there?
I think again, you're absolutely right. And what's especially sad is those parts of the country are going to face these Medicaid cuts that are coming next year and be even worse off. So people already are in healthcare deserts where they can't find providers, can't get access. All the things that the social determinants of health, like a safe neighborhood, clean water, clean air, healthy food available at the local grocery store. Like all of these things compound, and then there's these cuts to care on top of it, and millions of people that will lose their health insurance. So going back to what I said originally, this is about choices. This is an administration and a Republican-controlled Congress that is choosing to prioritize the wealthy and corporations and cut everything that the rest of us depend on. And cancer doesn't just happen to working class and middle class Americans. The cuts that they're doing to research will affect everybody, including their families, themselves even, in a few years. So it's so dangerous, deadly, and short-sighted.
Yeah, it no doubt is. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking with healthcare advocate and Laura Packard and founder of the group Voices of Healthcare Action. Laura, so we're talking about, you use the word healthcare desert, food deserts. We know that those exist. What do you think that that rural America? Let me phrase the question differently. I know what I'm thinking, but I want to say it differently. When we first saw what was happening with the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid healthcare systems, and more broadly speaking, everybody talked about the rural communities being impacted because they are already stressed and strained. And emergency room appearances were going to spike with these changes. What are you seeing or hearing that's happening in rural communities now as it relates to what's taken place with these cuts in the last 8 to 10 months?
Well, the Medicaid cuts are coming, but just knowing that they are coming, already hospitals have been closing in rural communities. And when that happens, people in those rural communities have to go even further for treatment and crowding hospitals and emergency rooms in more urban areas. So this is a healthcare system. Everything is connected. You can't cut one part of the system and without everybody feeling the effects. So this is such a tragedy, and it didn't have to happen.
Well, and that's why when I'm hearing the word system and realizing, the system is broken, or minimally it's got some incredibly bad wrenches in it. But because of the decisions that are being made, largely by those that are in political power, it's further or more wrenches are being thrown into that system. So here's a political. But now I'm going to save that for a second because I want to come back and ask you something else you talked about. The current HHS goon. I'm not even going to call him head of it, but the goon of the HHS, RFK Jr., is anti-vax. He's anti-science when it comes to medical treatment or human beings. What may be on the horizon right now with his anti-vax protocol?
Well, we've already seen with him cutting recommended vaccines for children and appointing anti-vax people to various committees that decide these things. We're seeing a measles outbreak that's spreading in multiple states. In South Carolina, it's hundreds of kids. More than half were reported in the past week or so. So we're going to continue to see diseases spread like wildfire because of the misinformation coming from the very top on healthcare. And not everything that the MAHA, Make America Healthy movement, and RFK Jr. are pushing is bad or wrong, but it's all mixed together in a stew of bad and dangerous ideas. Like, yes, we should eat more whole foods and less highly processed foods. But focusing on beef tallow and not looking at whether people have access to those healthy foods at an affordable price in their neighborhood, talking about how ice cream is healthier because it's made out of whole milk now is missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah, it was interesting that whole milk thing that yesterday. I just went, wow, it really. Okay, so Laura, I'm sure, and I remember when we met last year, year before last year. I can't even believe we're saying it that way. But when we met at the convention, one of the things that I remember you saying to me is, Richard, people aren't stupid, but their actions seem to be showing that they're willing to accept stupidity. And, that's not a direct quote to what you were saying, but you were talking about how Americans understand that this is a train that's running off the tracks. But do they have the will to fight to get it back on the tracks or keep it from, going over the cliff? And I would ask you that question. Do you think that folks on the right will wake up and will make the decision and the determination that this is not only is it wrong, it's unhealthy, but it's also very, very risky for us to have these types of people in leadership in one of the most important agencies for our country? Do you feel that Republican, and I'm talking voters, not so much the people that have been elected?
Well, I think some people can change their minds when they're faced with the consequences of these choices. People that have lost health insurance, some people are willing to look at the people that are in power that made those choices and recognize that these folks don't have my best interest at heart. Some people, if your kid gets sick because they didn't get a vaccine, maybe they will come around. But I just remember reading the parents of a child that died with measles, I think in New Mexico, that because their child wasn't vaccinated, and they still hadn't changed their mind about the importance of vaccines, even though it cost them their child. So some people can get more evidence or be personally affected by these issues and change their mind. And some people just are just lost in this sea of misinformation and can't get their way out.
Yeah. One of the things that you're doing is informing people. And let's talk about that as we wrap up today. Let's talk about what you are doing to inform folks about what their options are, what they should be kind of fighting for, leaning into, trainings that are out there, things that you guys are doing and that you're doing with the organization to better inform the people that would hopefully be the voters to make changes.
Well, that's a great question. I host a weekly show called Care Talk on Mondays at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. It's streaming on YouTube and Facebook and available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So look for Care Talk with Laura Packard. But we talk about healthcare topics. We have experts come in that talk about things like the new nutrition guidelines or the attacks on public health that we're facing. And we also have experts that answer people's health insurance questions. So every week we'll answer some questions and get people the information they need from sources that are not compensated by, that have no vested interest in telling them one thing or another. So we do that as a public service to help people navigate our very broken healthcare system.
What are some of the questions that a couple of quick questions that you've been asked by people that may have called in or that may have had, reached out to you that they need answers to?
Sure. Well, we have people talking about the increases in Medicare and what to do if they can't afford it, or what to do if they can't afford their health insurance, what to do if they don't have dental insurance and need dental coverage, what to do if their health insurance list of network providers is not accurate, questions like that. So we're happy to answer your questions. Find me on social media, Laura Packard. Look for Care Talk with Laura Packard on all the social media platforms, and we will answer your questions.
That's right, Laura Packard. I have to just say this as we wrap up. When we met, I thought, wow, this is someone that's really, as I use a phrase, got sleeves rolled up and doing the day-to-day work. And you've continued to be, just that person. So thank you for not only being on the show this morning and hanging out with us for a bit, but also thank you for the work that you do, because, the work that you do has changed people's lives. And, coming from someone like you who has the real experience of what that means when it comes to medical care, it's something to be proud of. So I hope that you are, because we certainly are honored to have you on the show this morning.
Well, thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Laura Packard, y'all. Make sure to reach out to her on all the socials. Check out her show, Care Talk. You might learn something. Thanks for being with us, Laura. We will talk with you soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right, Henry, we'll take a little bit of a break since we've got an in-studio guest that we got to get ready for. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Use on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM for Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130.
WCPT Replay.
Joining us now on the phone is Gay Icon's living legend, John Waters. Your body of work has shaped the lives of so many people. Like, even this morning, my neighbor was texting me. She's like, please tell him that Crybaby was my gay awakening.
Funny, because there's no gay characters in Crybaby.
I know. But there's something about, like, your movies, the embracing of camp, the embracing of tacky, the just all-out, just queer counterculture nature. Do you ever feel a responsibility for lifting the voice of the counterculture?
Well, I'm proud of it when people say that, I made them feel okay about themselves. And I wrote a whole book called Role Models about the people that did that for me. Yeah. Everybody needs a bad influence they can look up to.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Start off the new year on a healthier note by taking active liver supplements from New Nordic every day. Available online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com or at your local CVS, ShopRite, Meijer Grocery, or Wegmans.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the latest developments as tensions between the U.S. and Denmark heighten over President Trump's intentions to acquire Greenland.
Groups from several European countries, including France, Germany, Norway and Sweden, are arriving in Greenland to help boost the Arctic island's security. The move comes after talks between representatives of Denmark, Greenland and the US on Wednesday highlighted the fundamental disagreement between the Trump administration and European allies. French Poles and Oceans Ambassador Olivier Poivre d'Arvor said in an interview that the deployment sent a strong political signal. Meanwhile, in Copenhagen, locals expressed concern over President Trump's approach. Copenhagen resident Bastian Lindberg called it
surprisingly aggressive when we're all supposed to be allies.
Denmark is also increasing its military presence. The talks focused on US intentions to take over Greenland for its mineral resources amid rising Russian and Chinese interest. I'm Karen Shamas.
3 astronauts are back on Earth after NASA's first medical evacuation.
After 167 days in space, Dragon and NASA astronauts Zena Cardman and Mike Fink, Kimya Yui of JAXA, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov are back on Earth.
Audio courtesy NASA. The space station mission ended more than a month early. Officials have not identified the astronaut who developed the health problem last week or explained what happened, citing medical privacy. But NASA says the astronaut is in high spirits and going through the proper medical checks. World shares were mixed today and U.S. futures gained after Wall Street retreated, dragged down by falls in big tech stocks. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. President Trump is set to host Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado today at the White House. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports the Senate has rejected a war powers resolution.
Senate Republicans voted to dismiss a war powers resolution Wednesday that would have limited President Trump's ability to conduct further attacks on Venezuela. 2 GOP senators, Josh Hawley of Missouri and Todd Young of Indiana, reversing course on supporting the legislation under pressure from the president. Trump has blasted the 5 Republican senators who joined with Democrats to advance the resolution last week, a group that included Hawley and Young, saying they should never again be elected to public office. Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Susan Collins of Maine stuck to their support for the legislation. Ben Thomas, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today. We'll see high in the mid-20s. Winds out of the north around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. By Friday, a chance for some snow again, cloudy skies, high 37 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 16.
Horowitz and Associates. Cliff Horowitz's grandfather started this family law firm, and he always said, you know what, if we're going to get full justice for our clients, we have to go to trial. Trial, though, can be very time-consuming, and that's why most firms won't go to trial. They just settle for the insurance company's offer. But the Horowitz family spent a century going to trial. They're taking cases to trial now, and they're winning many record-setting verdicts. Cliff Horowitz is a third-generation trial lawyer, getting people the full justice they deserve. Call 312-800-8000 or go to horowitzlaw.com.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Chu's Views.
All righty, guys. Welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Thanks for hanging out with us. Guys, you need to follow Laura Packard. If you have questions about health care, where we are when it comes to that hugely important part of our society on any levels, local, state, federal. She is someone that knows her stuff and can help you in some of those areas. So reach out to Laura Packard and let her know that you may have some questions. Check out our show, Care Talk, as well. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joe Esposito will be talking to Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, weekdays 5 to 6 a.m. here on WCPT. Heartland Signal's Rich Eberwine with 3 stories you might have missed from our digital news platform. Live, Local, and Progressive, that's Joe Esposito, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Heartland Signal Executive Director Rodney Gibbs, Joel Blyfus, and Justin Perkins of Barn Raiser, and comedian activist Cliff Cash. Cliff's a joint, guys. I'm telling you, he is a great comedian. He's also very, very plugged in politically, and he's been one of the people that's led some of the protests in Washington. So we've had him on our show here, so check him out. But tonight, check him out with Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, AM 820, Heartland Signal, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow we'll have Congresswoman Robin Kelly here talking with us about, which she won't be in studio, but she'll be on the phone, talking about the articles of impeachment that she filed against Kristi Noem. Karen Byrne, host of True Blue Politics podcast, and Philip Andrew, who's a Democratic candidate for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois. Speaking of candidates for office, this gentleman's been with us before, and it's always my honor to talk with folks who are running for office on any level. Pat Hynes for Cook County Assessor. How about that? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the studio.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. He shared a private story with me that I'm going to make very public right now. And that he's been doing so much work to get his message out and to talk to people about what they say is important, that he had to take a break from using his voice for a while. So I'm glad you were able to hang out with us this morning. Happy 2026, and glad we're finally into this year so we can work on getting some stuff done. You've been running. When we had you on last year, you shared with us some of the reasons why you're running, and they are the big obvious one, and that's where we are with our tax system in Illinois, specifically in Cook County. Mm-hmm. I was talking with Laura Packard a moment ago before you arrived, and she used a phrase. She said the system is broken, talking about our healthcare system. And I wouldn't disagree with her about that, because there's too many people that are left on the sidelines when it comes to our healthcare systems, broadly speaking, and then even specifically. We've got healthcare deserts like we have food care deserts. I would say that we have a tax system that's broken here locally. The city, the state, the county, the state, and our federal tax system is broken. Where do you land your thoughts on that statement, mine, that it's broken?
Sure. I would agree that at its current execution, it's very broken. It's about as bad as it's been in my 30-year career. And when I look at the execution of the duties of the county assessor, I'm absolutely gobsmacked at what I'm seeing. Nearly every aspect of the function of that office is dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. So, even just the basics, the stuff you learn in Assessment 101 is not happening. So the first thing you learn when you take an assessment class is that the primary duty of any assessor is to discover, list, and value all the property that's in the district. And that's not happening right now. So there are billions of dollars of properties that are left off the tax rolls that aren't being taxed.
How come?
I get asked that all the
That's such a juvenile question. How come?
And I get that question a lot. And I like to say, it's not my duty to psychoanalyze the current assessor.
Okay, fair enough.
I can pontificate about why, but I can tell you that it's a fact that they're gone, that they're not on the tax rolls, and that every single taxpayer who pays a tax bill in Cook County pays more because of that omission. So I haven't invested a whole lot of time trying to figure out the why. I'm trying to figure out the how do we fix this.
Yeah, that, and I appreciate you saying that, because sometimes it's easy to take pot shots at that which is currently operating in a particular way politically, certainly, versus, okay, here's my solution to it.
Correct.
And I have to remind myself with my show that I bring up topics that are important, and we've got to talk about these, whether they be a local, micro-local thing or something that's national or global. But I always come from the approach of we have the biggest fix. One of the most important things that we can do to fix anything is to acknowledge it as an issue. Start there. And then chart a path toward what it's going to look like when it's completed and fixed or put into a different way of operating. And you've really been, the word assessor is probably appropriate. You've really been good at assessing that we have those problems. So when you say that there's that much money or that much value that's not being assessed, is there a way, and I literally don't know the answer to this, is there a way to say, okay, I'm in this role now. One of the things that I assessed prior to it was that we've got this disparity. So have you already started to put together what your 3 tools or 5 tools are for just that category, which I'm sure there are others that you've looked at? Does that question make sense?
Absolutely. And I have. Because I've been doing this work for so long, to me, this is exciting. This is really
you all should see his body language. He did kind of sit up straighter on that when he said this was exciting.
Well, it's an amazing opportunity. The number one goal is to provide relief for residential taxpayers. I mean, I'm so excited to follow what's happened right now because I have a tremendous opportunity to provide lower property taxes for residential taxpayers. And there's so much untaxed property that's been left on the table to feast off of. To be able to put that back on the tax rolls to provide relief for the balance of our taxpayers, you can't help but get excited if you do this for a living. And so one of the things that is causing this lack of property on the tax rolls is the incumbent had reduced the number of residential field inspectors and commercial field inspectors from what we had previously had at the county assessor's office. At one point, there was a nadir of 8 residential field inspectors on the street in Cook County to maintain data for 1.5 million residential properties. 8 people could not possibly.
8 people?
8 people.
8 people.
Now on the rolls, there were more than that.
You can't even have a football team with 8 people.
No, that's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
And there were more than that were on the payroll. But folks there was one that was sick. Somebody had back surgery. Things happen to people. When I began, there were 50 people.
So was this a political reduction or was it a monetary?
So it's a combination of both. And again, I'm not going to psychoanalyze the incumbent, but it's a fact. There were an insufficient number of people out to maintain the data used to produce the property tax assessment. Mm-hmm. And so what does that end up causing when you don't do the basic part of your job? Well, now we have data being fed into the mass appraisal model that's complete garbage. And it doesn't matter what your model is.
So then is it old data? And I apologize
it's a combination.
For sort of ongoing interrupting you.
No,
but
please.
My brain is going, so is it data that was there, but they chose not to use it? And I know you don't want to throw any sand in the incumbent, but why would it not be used?
So it's the main portion of the data that wasn't used is permit data. So every time there's construction projects in Cook County, you got to pull a building permit. So 120 some odd municipalities have their own building department. City of Chicago, the largest one, has a building department. All those permits are sent to the Cook County assessor's office.
Okay.
And in prior administrations, you'd take that permit data as a breadcrumb that there's construction activity at that site, and you would investigate. You'd follow up, see if there's something taxable. That wasn't happening, and so those permits were ignored. Some of them were closed. Some of them had fraudulent field inspection reports attesting to field inspections that never happened.
Wow.
And a lot of that has to do with the reduction of staff that had that primary duty. It's boring work. It's not exciting.
Depending on who you are, it may not be boring. But
right. And so when you don't keep up with the change in Cook County, and think about how large Cook County is, how often hammers swing and cranes are in the sky and shovels are in the ground. If you don't keep up with that change, you don't have an accurate picture of what should be assessed. And to make matters worse, there is only one person or one entity in our system that's tasked with maintaining the property description books, and that's the county assessor. So the Board of Review does not have their own property description books. Property Tax Appeal Board does not have their own property description books. It's on the duty of the county assessor to discover, list, and value all the properties in the district. So if you have an erroneous description for your property, that's the same erroneous description that the Board of Review is going to use.
So they're going to they get bad information or inaccurate information or non-relevant information. And so they review, but then the assessor is still operating off of data that's not particularly relevant, and without the staff to have more people, not without the staff on the street to have better data brought in,
correct,
the output's going to be
garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, that's I get it. So one of the things that was going through my mind when we were talking about the amount of property that has not been assessed is this sort of finding the balance between how much our businesses, for lack of better words, my stomach just growled, how much are businesses getting away with, and again, I put that in air quotes.
Sure.
That then, because they're getting away with the lack of taxing or incorrectly taxing or not proportionate share taxing, how much are the individual, and I'll say regular folks, everyday homeowners, residential owners, paying for that disparity?
So it's a few $100s. There's probably about $3 billion of property that's not assessed, that's not on the tax rolls. I've spent the last few years chronicling them. We have a list of what the properties are. It fluctuates between $1.5 billion that we have, and I know that I've only got a fraction of them. And so anytime someone who should be paying their fair share doesn't pay their fair share, it shifts the burden to somebody else. On the commercial versus residential portion, in the state tax code, commercial properties pay 2.5 times as much as the residential taxpayers. So any commercial property that you're going to leave off the tax rolls really has a 2.5 times of an impact on the residential tax bills.
Wow.
And so, as I look through that data, there have been car washes left off the tax rolls, restaurants left off the tax rolls, gas stations left off the tax rolls. And then obviously that shifts 2.5 times as much of the burden. But there's also $1 million luxury single-family homes that are off the tax rolls.
What?
Yes.
Wait.
And so,
okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give you the examples. They're shocking to me too, and I don't. You can't hide a house. These are all out
right,
in the open public.
It's right there.
Yeah.
And somebody probably lives in it at some point if they're vacationing somewhere else that's warmer. But how in that blank does a $1 million home in Cook County get left off?
Well, it's that inability to keep up with the change.
He furrowed his brow on that one, guys.
So, the county assessor receives a permit indicating that there's going to be, and the permit is, they're not sneaking up on you. It's a permit for a new construction single-family home.
Right.
And then
it's got a pretty big footprint.
Correct. And the following year, you're supposed to check that parcel to see if there's been a luxury single-family home built there. That's not happening. And so if no one goes to check it, no one goes to update that record, a lot of times it's just listed as a vacant lot, and it pays taxes as is a vacant lot until someone complains or until somebody does something about it. When I took over in Lyons Township, I did an audit of the data that we had. I found 30-plus luxury single-family homes that weren't on the tax rolls. I complained to the county assessor, asked them to put them back on the tax rolls. They refused to do so. So I went and filed complaint at the Board of Review and had them put on at the last minute at the Board of Review. The only assessor in the county system to do that, but I was very frustrated.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my taxpayers next door to have to pay for the new luxury single-family home that was built right next to them. It's not right.
Yeah. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. In studio with us is Pat Hynes, who is running for Cook County Assessor. And I'm so grateful to get this quick down and dirty lesson on us in a space that I think so many of us what happens, Pat, is everybody gets up, goes to work, goes to wherever, take care of parents, do whatever they do. We have our lives that we live. And, all of a sudden, there's those 2 times of the year, certainly here in Cook County, where that bill comes out. And it says something about our taxes. Either they stayed stagnant, they went down, or they went up. And I think that right now, one of the biggest frustrations that I'm seeing from this most recent kerfuffle is I was trying to say the right words. And
I love that word.
Not having had to hit the red button. But the financial strain on taxpayers and the disproportionality of it in communities is just a drag on so many people right now. Talk about what you've seen, and when you've gone to, I'm going to call them town halls, to talk with people, what's been your experience, and how are you, in 2 parts of this, how do you navigate that in the moment, but then when you're in the role, assuming you are the one to be the next person in that role, how are you going to navigate those frustrations that everyday folks are having with this financial strain on taxpayers?
So when I make the rounds and I'm at town halls and talking to taxpayers, the feeling that I get back is just abject frustration. There's wild spikes in their assessments. They don't know what's coming down the road. They don't know what their property tax, why they have a property tax spike from what their burden was 3 years ago, what the numbers were that came up with that. They have no faith in the accuracy of the numbers that are being sent their way. So that is a source of tremendous frustration. And then the resultant spikes are a source of severe financial stress.
Yeah.
Think about, what's the underlying cause of most divorces? It's financial stress, or, you have to put food on the table, get your kids to school, keep a roof over your head. You struggle so hard to live the American dream and buy a home. And now we've made it so that even just hanging on to that home is so
and
difficult.
people are not only going to lose the equity that's in that part. I mean, there's so many parts of that that just so sorry.
So the abject stress and the emotional, this is the most emotional asset that anyone will ever own. And so these conversations, they really get kind of intense. And it's part of what makes me as passionate as I am about the work that I do is I've been at this for so long. I've been in every community in Cook County for decades, on the front lawn, doing folks' assessments. I've had these conversations for decades. You have these conversations with folks where they're really emotional conversations. You internalize it, and you really are driven to make sure that we don't impact taxpayers in that way on a regular basis. And it's part of the reason that I left the Cook County Assessor's Office. I worked for Assessor Kagi for 3 years. I was very disappointed in what was happening. That was part of the motivation for me to leave and run for Township Assessor in Lyons Township. And so that's the mood right now. And so the solution is, and I've said this the last time, and I'm very serious about it, the solution is to make the county assessor's office boring again. It should not be front and center in your life. You should not have to say a little prayer before you go to the mailbox and hope that this isn't your year that you have an outrageous property tax burden. And so, the underlying market value of most property, even in a hot market, moves at a slow, steady pace. And the resultant assessment that you receive should also move at a slow, steady pace because that's the law. And the resultant property tax burden that you receive should also move at a slow, steady pace in a predictable manner, in a way that you can plan for and be able to absorb so that it doesn't upset the apple cart and ruin your life.
A lot of people, I think you said this last time when we talked, that it's not that nobody wants an increase. Nobody looks for it.
Of course.
But, and however, if there is going to be one, and this is the part about being boring again that I can really latch onto, is that it's incremental and it's predictable. And we know, okay, all right, it's coming. And just not to draw you into national politics, but when it comes to tariffs, as an example, tariffs are a tax that's unpredictable. And businesses suffer from it, which then means their employees, the surrounding community, and the list goes on. They suffer from that because it's not predictable. It's a yo-yo. And so our tax system here in Cook County has been, weighted down with that kind of lack of planning, if you will. No sort of future. This is how we want this to play itself out. It sounds to me like you've figured out we've got to get back to some versions of that.
We do.
So first thing you're going to do, at least in your mind, if you are the one to take that seat, what's going to be the first couple of things that you're like, this has got to happen, and we got 30 days. I'm just setting an arbitrary period of time, but what's that look like?
Number one is cleaning up the data used to produce the assessment. And, I love pouring through the data on a regular basis. So I have a whole list of all this untaxed property. And number one is, I'm excited. Let's get this stuff back on the tax rolls.
You should see him. He is. Listen. Talk about something being catching. Because I can just see you're like, I can't wait to get into that.
Oh, I cannot.
I see you in a room with this paper and whatnot all around you going, I'm fine. I'm plowing through. But not to make light of it, but your first thing is to attack the data.
Correct. And so if you can produce an assessment that's built on data that you can defend, and you can publish that data, and you can defend your values, it really instills taxpayer confidence. They can look at it. They can see where the data is. They can see the logic of where you came up with your numbers. And then when they receive their assessment, they'll open up the bill and go, yeah, okay, I could probably sell my house for about that.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more than I could have sold it for 3 years ago. Yeah, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the resultant tax bill is just a little bit more than what I had before. That's a trend that I can absorb. And then the other item that I'm very excited about, we talk about the volatility in the property taxes, the ones that are left off the tax rolls. But the other thing that I'm very excited about is promoting economic development in this county. We are an amazing economic region. We have so many advantages over the rest of the country. And right now, we're very toxic to those who want to invest in Cook County.
Yeah.
And so for those who are willing to invest in our county, I would really like, if they're going to build a 100,000 square foot warehouse or a multi-story building or more residential housing units, which we desperately need, there's no reason that the county assessor's office can't take what they're about to build, model it for them, give them some definitive answers on how we'll score it, what the assessment's going to be, so they can predict what their future tax burden's going to be. It'll help them underwrite their loans. It'll help them start building again.
Right.
And so as I'm very excited about all of the untaxed properties that are not on the tax rolls that I can then add, I'm also very excited at the future construction that doesn't exist right now. I know we argue about what the built environment looks like now, but, imagine the built environment that just never got built because we chased it away.
We chased it away. Yeah.
And so, getting folks to invest in Cook County again, getting our housing numbers balanced. Right now, we have runaway inflation in rent, and that's driven by a lack of supply. And that lack of supply is hampered by the toxic environment that we have in our property tax system.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about two really big things, is correcting the errors that we have in the tax rolls, putting stuff back on the tax rolls, providing relief right now, and then encouraging some economic development, getting stuff built in this county, and providing property tax relief year 2, year 3, year 4. This is a great time to be running for county assessor.
Well, it is, because there's problems to solve. One of the ones that I was how do I want to ask this question? Staffing. 8 now, 50. It was 50 in the past in terms of field assessors.
Yeah,
that's got to be part of it as well. But it's going to be part of the solution. But that's got to be one of those things that you're going to be looking for or looking to solve. How do you approach that? Where do you find those people?
Yeah, the advantage of being in the industry for so long, and I was at the assessor's office from 98 to the end of 2021. It fluctuates between 250, 275 employees roughly at the county assessor's office. I personally know the overwhelming majority of all of them.
Wow.
And I also know a lot of folks in our industry, property tax professionals. And as I work the trail, I can tell you that property tax professionals are equally as frustrated about this as I am. And I've been blown away when I'm on the trail at folks who are making really good money in private sector who say, you know what, I'll leave the private sector and come work for you. If you take over I'm humbled by folks who I would never thought would come back to public service.
Wow.
Who said, you know what, I'm so aggravated with this. It's got to be cleaned up. This is harming our regional economy. I love this city. If you become the assessor, I can't wait to come work for you. And so we've already kind of been building the groundwork about the talent that we have in this city who can help put their shoulder into it and correct some of the problems that we have. So we've already been thinking about staffing and how we're going to do it. But it is a problem. You don't just snap your fingers overnight and bring talent in.
One of the things that a colleague of mine, we were talking about this yesterday. He is actually someone that supports the show and contributes to the show. His name is Kurt Herner, and he's from Akron, Ohio. And he talked about that, the last couple points you made about it's not going to happen overnight, and that it takes planning and preparation and execution. And we were talking about this from in the medical space, because that's what he's a professional in, and that's a big part of where we are. I think that we as a community, we that have a voice, we that do what you're going to be doing, have to articulate that problems take time to fix. And there does require a little bit of patience. And that's not to put it off and kick it down the road, but it is, I think we as a society, we've got to build a mindset that says we aren't going to fix anything overnight necessarily. That's a big problem or a big project. So we've got to all be prepared to lean in with some time, because to fix things and fix them that we're in a way that they're going to be fixed for a while, right?
Yes.
We've got to be prepared to put the long work in. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
No, I would agree with you.
That.
I would agree with you. So there are some short-term fixes that are going to be a lot easier and will bear fruit immediately.
And people can feel it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there are long-term fixes that will take longer. But ultimately my goal, and I've said this before, I don't want to be the mayor. I don't want to be a senator. I don't want to be a congressman. I'm a one-trick pony. This is the thing that I absolutely love. I want to be the Cook County assessor. I want to straighten this out. I want to get this office working as a well-oiled machine. I'd like to see it functional for our taxpayers. And then I'd like to hand it off to the next assessor. And I'd like to put a bass boat under my butt and a fishing pole in one hand. And I'd like to look back on my career and say that I did something that had meaning.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunity. But there was an assessor that sat in that seat before me. There will be an assessor that sits in the seat after me.
Yeah.
And the measure of how you did you hand it off to the next guy in better shape than you received it?
Yeah.
And
it's always the case.
Absolutely.
It's always the case.
I'm excited to do so.
Pat Hynes for Cook County Assessor. What an education this morning, right, Henry? I mean, there's the stuff that we might say is we don't know exist, like the numbers of properties. I mean, that one's still blowing me away. But thank you for coming in and hanging out with us this morning. And on a bigger space, thank you for understanding the importance of the work and what it means to everyday citizens here, City of Chicago, Cook County, State of Illinois. Because I look at our region. You said it earlier, and I know we got to wrap up. I don't have a lot of time to keep going into that. But the region is so important to the country, if not the world. Mm-hmm. And it's bearing itself out by successful people leaning into the problems and being able to stay in there for a minute. So, Pat, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time. And we're going to wish you all the success that you deserve in this campaign.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good. All right. Henry, let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130.
Hear that? That's what having fewer hot flashes and night sweats can sound like. Veoza is the #1 prescribed hormone-free treatment FDA approved for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes and night sweats, due to menopause. Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today. We'll see high in the mid-20s. Winds out of the north around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. By Friday, a chance for some snow again, cloudy skies, high 37 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 16.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. There's a lot to talk with Pat about, and I know we didn't get to everything. So, guys, I apologize. I know you guys were throwing me some text messages. So I apologize for us not getting everything in, and we'll do what we can to affect that going forward. One of the things that we learn when we have people who are specialists in a certain area is that they really know their stuff, and he knows his stuff. And I know that there's a lot of questions that you guys may have in terms of what's happening with their Cook County tax system. But I think it's a part of a bigger conversation about things that are broken. And prior to Pat being with us, we had a conversation with Laura Packard who talked about our healthcare system is broken. Our next guest is someone that's been with us before, and now that we're back into the new year and ready to go, she's going to be with us a few more times. Professor of Law at the University of Michigan, author of Lawless, How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, and Bad Vibes. And we could say right now there are some funky vibes with the Supreme Court. Who are we talking about? Professor Leah Litman. Good morning, Professor. Welcome back to Choose Views on WCPT. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Honestly, as a native Minnesotan, probably could be better. But, such as it is.
Yep, I get it. I totally do. It's been a tough start to the new year in terms of us invading a country and kidnapping their president. And no matter how bad of a guy he was or is, to, killing citizens on the streets of America. So I get it. I understand where you're coming from. As a Midwesterner particularly, this is, our region of the country that we love and embrace. We love our Midwestern folk. And so that's been a hard pill to swallow. But many people who we've had on our show and that I've talked to over the couple of years have said one thing that you've said before, which is we still have to fight. And even though it's a tough time, we have to stay in the fight because there are too many things at risk of losing permanently if we don't. And I know that you've got some things to say about what's currently happening with the situation with Jerome Powell. And, we're attacking an individual because he essentially told the truth and stood for something, and we're using legal measures to do that. Lean into this conversation about your view of what the Department of Justice is doing or trying to do when it comes to Jerome Powell.
Yes. So a little bit of background. Jerome Powell is the current chair of the Federal Reserve Board, the independent agency that, among other things, makes monetary policy for the United States. They set interest rates, and they do so based on their views about the country's long-term economic interests, how to avoid recessions, and basically prevent things from getting worse. And in part because of that, they are protected from political influence in that by law, Congress has said presidents cannot simply remove people on the Federal Reserve Board. They can only do so under very narrow circumstances, including malfeasance, which might, for example, include breaking the law. So Donald Trump, as we all know, has been in a concerted pressure campaign to get the Federal Reserve Board to lower interest rates. He thinks if that does so, it will jumpstart and provide a boost to the economy, as people might take out more loans and invest in more projects with lower interest rates. But the Fed has declined to do so, on the basis that lowering interest rates is not going to address part of what is, negatively influencing our economy and causing the economic strain that people feel. And instead, lowering interest rates could set us up for a bust, a bubble breaking, which is what has precipitated, previous economic downturns. So what did Donald Trump do? Well, he attempted to fire one governor of the Federal Reserve last year, Lisa Cook.
Yep.
He did so, based on, his kind of lackey stooge, Bill Pulte, drumming up allegations of mortgage fraud and accusing, Lisa Cook of misrepresenting that a home that she purchased was going to be her primary residence when it was not, in fact, going to be. Now, as ProPublica and other entities have reported, many people in the Trump administration have done the same, indicating on various documents that homes they purchased would be their primary residence, even when they are not. But to use that as a pretext to attempt to remove Lisa Cook. And actually, her case challenging her removal is going to be heard next week at the United States Supreme Court. And basically on the eve of that case, being at the Supreme Court, it comes out that Trump's DOJ has launched another criminal probe into another member of the Federal Reserve, this time the chair, Jerome Powell. Now, the basis for this criminal probe is, like the allegations against Lisa Cook, dubious and obviously pretext. The allegation is Jerome Powell might have misrepresented to Congress the precise scope of the renovations that were going to be undertaken at the Federal Reserve Board. No one thinks that's remotely serious. And Jerome Powell released a written statement and a video statement saying he was being targeted, for criminal prosecution potentially, and at least criminal investigation, because he refused to set interest rates based on what would be politically convenient for Donald Trump, and instead set interest rates based on his expert determination about what would be in the public interest. So Donald Trump's DOJ is now targeting two governors of the Federal Reserve Board with very pretextual, very dubious criminal allegations. And it's clear they are attempts to influence the Federal Reserve to do as Donald Trump wants, because, of course, no one wants to face criminal prosecution. And the fact that he is targeting these individuals, as individuals personally, is part of what makes this so threatening. So that is what is happening with Jerome Powell. Again, next week, the Supreme Court will hear another governor of the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook, challenge to Trump's attempt to remove her. And the implications, if the president were indeed to acquire the power to gin up spurious, allegations to remove members of the Fed, would be catastrophic, not just for, the United States economy, but the global economic order as we know it, which has really been structured around the idea that, at least in democracies, liberal democracies, monetary policy is independent. It is not made based on political determination.
We've had a number of U.S.-based, but a lot of non-U.S.-based financial folk that have said that this would be a disaster. And they've chimed in, and I spoke to that earlier in the week. And I'm glad you were able to. First of all, thank you, Professor Litman, for breaking that down. This morning, we've had three guests on that are, like I said in your intro, are experts in your field, and then some, that have really taken some complicated issues and broken them down in bite-sized pieces so people can grab from that and learn from that. So I want to thank you for breaking down what's actually taking place, because there's so much coming at America from this White House, from this regime, that sometimes it's hard to keep up and then dig in to see, oh my God, they're going after her because of, meaning Ms. Cook, because of a statement about how she planned on using her home or her second home. I mean, what kind of garbage waste of time is that? Then you're going after Jerome Powell for, how they're breaking down the redesign and construction of a building that doesn't really impact anybody's life other than the people that work there, and not to demean the importance of that. And my juxtaposition with that is we have a president that gets up from a cabinet meeting and walks over to a window and talks about a ballroom that hasn't been built yet or completed yet. And have we seen the projections on that? I said this earlier in the week. Have we seen the actual numbers and cost on that? If he's going to use construction cost as a way to go after Jerome Powell, well, let's see the numbers on this White House ballroom. You know what I mean? So.
No, exactly. I mean, he said he was going to do this renovation. I don't recall him ever saying that would entail the utter destruction of the East Wing of the White House.
Right.
And yet, that is what he has arrived at. The reality is anyone who has ever had any home construction or office construction knows things don't always go as anticipated. The project is not
they
going
never
to
do.
stick to exactly what you envisioned and agreed on.
Professor Litman, you can't get your grass cut, and if it grew longer than expected, they may have to charge you another $5 to cut the grass. I mean, it's just like it's not to oversimplify, but sometimes we have to do that to cut through the fog of this craziness of this regime. And my hope, and I know this is a hope, but I'm also kind of demanding it. People have got to pay the hell attention right now. Folks have got to get locked into, if they truly believe in protecting this democracy and reestablishing our humanity and our dignity, people have got to get replugged into this fight and being aware that they're wasting resources by going. I mean, to me, it's a waste of resources to go after Jerome Powell or to go after Ms. Cook. It's just a waste of resources and time. And this administration is built off of that distraction. But I'm begging people to pay attention. I am. This process with Ms. Cook is almost, it's kind of reminiscent of what they tried to do with AG Letitia James.
Yes, no, I mean, the volume of vindictive prosecutions that this DOJ has instituted is galling. I mean, New York Attorney General Letitia James, again, based on allegations of mortgage fraud. They have attempted to prosecute former FBI Director Jim Comey. They, have launched a prosecution against former Ambassador John Bolton. They have instituted a criminal prosecution against a congressional representative from New Jersey who attempted to engage in some oversight and inspect an ICE facility. There are reportedly investigations and probes into California Senator Adam Schiff, Representative Eric Swalwell. It is clear they are using the threat of prosecution and having to face, the vast law enforcement powers of the federal government as a threat, because the message is clear. If you annoy Trump, if you aren't on board with him, if you deign to criticize him, you are going to be targeted, whether that is through criminal prosecution or some other method.
Yeah, you're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Professor of Law and author Leah Litman. Thanks for being with us this morning, Professor. This chaos of retribution and using the legal system, using the Department of Justice to go after people, is clearly focused on folks that are quote unquote politically on the left or center, or folks that have pushed against him. Given looking at Comey as an example, James Comey as an example. I mean, we don't see the same kind of vitriol and all going towards someone like Ken Paxton, who is clearly someone that should be investigated on a federal level because of the work that he's done or the deeds that he's done down in Texas. Talk a little bit about your observations there.
Yes, I mean, it is clear that, for my enemies, the law, for my friends, nothing. Think about, the pardons that this administration has issued. One of the people who is supposedly assisting with the pardons, failed nominee to be U.S. Attorney of D.C., Ed Martin, has posted "No MAGA Left Behind." They issued a mass pardon, for individuals who were convicted based on their participation in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. He has issued pardons to former Republican congressional representatives, saying, basically they were loyal to me, like former Representative George Santos. He has issued pardons to, the CEO of Binance Company, which does a lot of business with the Trump family crypto organization. He has pardoned individuals who, poured money into Trump-associated political action committees. So again, they are very transparent in signaling that so long as you are with them, they will protect you and basically ensure you will never face legal consequences for anything you do to assist the president. Whereas if you deign to exercise your constitutional rights, if you deign to criticize this administration, then they are going to potentially bring down the full force of the federal government on you. I mean, think about Renee Nicole Good, who was murdered by the ICE agent. What was she doing? She was exercising her constitutional right to observe, federal law enforcement officers, to engage in First Amendment protected activity. And what happens to her? She is gunned down and murdered. And now you have, individuals who are affiliated with the administration or Republican Party or ICE, saying rather publicly, look, the lesson here is if you don't want to die, you should follow officers' commands and do everything that they tell you. That is not, remotely constitutional. But again, they are making their message clear.
They're making their message clear, and a lot of it is on the fly because situations happen and suddenly they change course, or they make a statement about something that they've never, had to deal with before. And so that also is problematic because when things are done on the fly, there's clearly no planning. Just like everything with this administration, there's no planning around the tariffs. I mean, in terms of true structural ways of implementing tariffs, there's no planning there. There's no planning in so many other areas. Now, we know that the big plan in the 900-page document known as Project 2025 is their plan, but the way in which things take place is giving no one really any sort of track to run on to say there's any confidence in what this administration is doing. And I want to circle back, Professor Litman, to something that you talked about a moment ago with regard to this economy and the interest rates with Jerome Powell. Trump can't fix the economy, and he knows it. He doesn't have the brain power. He doesn't have the people around him to fix the economy that he said he was going to fix during the campaign in 2024. So the only item that they really have to use is to force the hand of the Fed to change interest rates so that it appears as though the economy is growing, or that because the markets are doing what they're doing right now. But is the economy actually growing for everyday people? It's not. So let's change interest rates so people do what? Go further into debt, which that's really not growing the economy.
No, exactly. It's not growing the economy at all. The stock market is doing well. More than 30% of Americans do not make enough money where they have leftover money to invest in the stock market. They are not actually benefiting from, the limited ways in which our economy is doing well. The job market is very tight. If you lose your job, it is quite difficult to find another. And we know Donald Trump is obsessed with and understands the importance of the economy to his political career. This is why at the end of his first term, he was screaming at the Fed to lower interest rates, in the wake of the COVID recession and the COVID tightening of the economy. This is why, when he ran for president in 2024, he fixated on economic issues. He understands that politically, when people are hurting economically, they understandably, blame who is currently in power. And so he wants, for the sake of his own political career, to basically give the economy a temporary sugar high. And what happens after a sugar high? The crash. Yep. And so that is what he is trying to precipitate, again, because he doesn't care really about actual people's lives and what they are going through economically. What he cares about is holding on to power.
And the visual that comes from, because see, if this is the thing, and you know this as well as anybody. If there's a spike, that sugar high, I love the way you articulated that. If there's a sugar high, everybody's geeked on that. That's what they'll focus on, and then they'll run on that, not just politically. The corporate media will pick up on that, and the list goes on. And then when it crashes or slows down, then they'll be blamed to be shared to the other political party, the Democrats, that it's the Democrats because they won't let us do this, they won't let us do that. And that it'll just be another cycle of we had a sugar high when things changed and we came back to reality. It's the Democrats' fault because they won't let us do X, Y, and Z. But let's not forget, the Republicans they hold all the keys right now to each of our federal elements of power and branches of government. So all of this is on them. None of this is on Democrats. Even when we can say Democrats could do a better job at X, Y, Z, ultimately, all of this train wrecking that's going on is at the hands of the GOP because they are the ones that were elected to these offices and have made decisions to either do or not do something to slow this train wreck down. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. No, completely.
So, Scrutiny. Strict Scrutiny is your podcast that you co-host. Talk about that for a little bit as we wrap up today. How is that going? You're off to the new year. What's happening with your podcast?
Yes, so I co-host the podcast with two other law professors, Melissa Murray, who is at NYU, and Kate Shaw, who's actually a native Chicagoan, but now is a law professor at the University of Pennsylvania. And our episodes, which come out every Monday, discuss what is happening at the Supreme Court, as well as what is happening in our legal culture more broadly. So this last week, we previewed the cases that the Supreme Court was going to hear in its current sitting in January. That includes Lisa Cook, the governor of the Federal Reserve Board, challenging her removal. It also includes the cases challenging state bans on trans girls and trans women participating in sports. So every week you can tune in to hear what the Supreme Court is up to and when they issue, particularly important decisions, we also release additional episodes. So if you want to, get a weekly update about what is happening at the court and also what is happening in the legal challenges to various things that the Trump administration is doing, I think we're your spot. So you can catch us wherever you get your podcast, on Monday.
Well, there's no thought. You are the spot when it comes to that very definitive work, Professor Litman. And always we appreciate you hanging out with us. The name of the book, guys, is Lawless, How the Supreme Court runs on conservative grievance, fringe theories, and bad vibes. And that's from our guest this morning, Professor Leah Litman, professor at the University of Michigan Law School. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Happy 2026. I look forward to talking to you again in a couple weeks, and I know we'll have you back, and maybe we'll lean into some more Supreme Court conversation. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, Professor Litman, have a great day. We'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye now.
You too. Take care.
All right, guys, we've been blessed today to have Professor Litman with us. She's just, to use a phrase, she's a rock star. She knows her stuff like nobody's business, and I'm honored to have had time with her this morning. We had in studio with us Pat Hynes, who's running for Cook County assessor, and then Laura Packard, who is one of the better healthcare advocates in the country. So we got some stuff that's broken, y'all, but it's our responsibility, and it's also our opportunity. Like Pat said, it's our opportunity to fix it. So let's get about that. Get plugged in. Do the research. Look these people up. See what they stand for, and find your way to get involved. That's what we have to do. I say it oftentimes, but that's because I believe it and I mean it. That being said, guys, as always, stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show, and take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish, at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
WCPT Replay.
Joining us now is the brand new executive director of the Gender Cool Project, Chase Glenn.
I'm a trans man who grew up in a small conservative town in a pretty religious family, and this was back in the 70s and 80s when we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, necessarily a whole lot of support even for trans folks, and where I grew up, I didn't think I knew anyone who was trans, didn't hear any stories about trans folks. And so my upbringing really just, as I was able to discover who I was, just set me up for sort of understanding the importance of the support and the stories that organizations like Gender Cool tell.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy the military in Minneapolis. He made the threat after a federal officer trying to make an arrest shot a man in the leg yesterday after being attacked with a shovel and broom handle. Trump has repeatedly threatened to invoke the rarely used federal law to deploy the U.S. military or federalize the National Guard for domestic law enforcement over the objections of state governors. Trump is scheduled to meet today with Maria Corina Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize winning leader of Venezuela's opposition. Meanwhile, in Venezuela yesterday, the country's leader, Delcy Rodriguez, talked about the release of prisoners during a briefing at the presidential palace in Caracas. AP correspondent Jennifer King has more.
Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, struck a conciliatory tone at her first briefing for reporters since the ouster of Nicolas Maduro.
El mensaje es una Venezuela.
Rodriguez says she will continue releasing hundreds of prisoners in a sign that her nation is entering a new political era. Crimes related to the constitutional order are being evaluated, Rodriguez said, in apparent reference to criticisms that many of the prisoners are being held on politically motivated charges and that the process is too slow and secretive. She did not take questions at the briefing. Rodriguez is walking a tightrope between her own hardline colleagues and demands by U.S. President Donald Trump, who voiced his support during a White House signing event.
We just had a great conversation today, and she's a terrific person. I mean, she's somebody that we've worked with very well.
I'm Jennifer King.
The UN Security Council scheduled an emergency meeting today to discuss Iran's deadly protests at the request of the U.S., even as Trump has left unclear what actions he would take against the Islamic State. Wall Street was set to open with gains today. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News.
AP